The full moon cast its silver glow over the withering crops of Ashfield Farm, a once prosperous homestead now drowning in debt and despair. Penelope Acosta stared at the foreclosure notice in her trembling hands, the paper worn thin from her repeated readings over the past week. 3 generations of her family had tilled this land, and now it would be lost because of a drought and her father's mounting medical bills. There must be another way, she whispered to herself, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she gazed out the window toward Ravenscroft Manor, the imposing estate that loomed on the hillside above their property. Local legends spoke of its master, a reclusive nobleman who had owned the land for as long as anyone could remember. Some said he was immortal, others claimed he was a demon who drank the blood of virgins. Penelope had always dismissed such tales as nonsense. Until tonight, the desperate plan that had formed in her mind over sleepless nights seemed absurd, but she was out of options. The bank would seize their property in 3 days unless she could produce the $15,000 they owed. Her father lay bedridden, her mother was gone, and her younger sister depended on her. Selling herself in marriage to the mysterious Lord of Ravenscroft was madness, but the rumors said he valued companionship above all else and possessed wealth beyond measure. Monsters do not save, they destroy, Penelope reminded herself, repeating her grandmother's warning. Yet as she slipped on her coat and stepped into the night, she wondered if even monsters might be capable of mercy. The trek up the winding path to Ravenscroft Manor seemed to take hours, though the grandfather clock in the entrance hall showed only 30 minutes had passed when the ancient butler admitted her. His eyes, clouded with cataracts, regarded her with a mixture of pity and curiosity. "I must speak with your master," Penelope said, her voice steadier than she felt. "It concerns our land." The butler nodded silently and led her through corridors adorned with paintings that seemed to breathe in the flickering light of wall sconces. No electric lights illuminated this place, only the golden glow of candles and the occasional silver beam of moonlight through tall windows. The study where she waited felt frozen in time. Leather-bound books lined shelves that stretched to the ceiling, and a massive desk carved from ebony dominated the center of the room. When the door opened again, Penelope's heart threatened to burst from her chest. Lord Darius Ravenscroft moved with the fluid grace of a predator. Tall and imposing, his pale features seemed carved from marble, ageless, perfect, and utterly inhuman. His eyes, the color of burnished gold, fixed upon her with an intensity that made her feel like prey. "Miss Acosta," he said, his voice deep and melodious with an accent she could not place. "To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure?" Penelope forced herself to meet his gaze. "My lord, I have come to make you an offer." One elegant eyebrow arched. "Indeed? And what could you possibly offer that would interest me? I wonder." "Myself," she said simply. "In marriage, in exchange for saving our farm." For a moment silence reigned. Then Lord Ravenscroft laughed, a rich, musical sound that contained no warmth. "Marriage? How quaint. And what makes you think I desire a wife, Miss Acosta?" "Everyone desires companionship," she answered, thinking of her father's grief since her mother's passing. "Even you, my lord." Something flickered in those golden eyes, a momentary vulnerability quickly masked. "You know nothing of me or my desires. I know you have lived here alone for decades. I know the villagers fear you, and I know you have the means to save my family's legacy." Lord Ravenscroft circled her slowly, like a wolf assessing a lamb. "And if I were to accept this arrangement, what then? Would you not fear me as well? Would you not despise being bound to a monster?" "I would honor my vows," Penelope said firmly. "I would be a true wife in all respects save one. I would not ask for love, only respect." He stopped before her, so close she could feel the unnatural coolness radiating from his skin. "Brave little Penelope, do you believe all the stories they tell of me?" "I believe you are not human," she admitted. "But I also believe even inhuman creatures can keep their word." Lord Ravenscroft studied her for what seemed an eternity. "Very well. I will save your precious farm. I will pay your father's debts. And in return, you will come to live here as my wife, bound by law and other ties. When? She asked, her voice barely audible. Tomorrow night. Come at midnight. Bring nothing but yourself. He turned away, his long black coat swirling around him. The documents for your farm will be delivered to the bank in the morning. Consider it a wedding gift. Thank you, my lord. He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. Do not thank me yet, Penelope Acosta. You cannot possibly understand what you have agreed to. After she had gone, Darius stood at the window, watching her small figure hurry down the path toward the farmhouse in the distance. For 137 years he had walked this earth, and never had he encountered such simple courage or such folly. Is it wise, master? Asked Greaves, the ancient butler who had served him for over a century. Wisdom has nothing to do with it, Darius replied softly. Her blood called to me the moment she entered. After centuries of searching, I have found her. The prophecy? Yes, she bears the mark on her aura. The crimson thread of fate that has eluded me for so long. He turned from the window. She believes she is sacrificing herself to save her family. She cannot know she is my salvation. And when she discovers the truth, Darius smiled, revealing the tips of his fangs. She will either embrace eternity at my side, or destroy me utterly. The wedding was conducted in the manor's private chapel by moonlight. No guests attended save Greaves and an ancient woman Darius introduced as Madame Vorna, who watched Penelope with knowing eyes that seemed to pierce through flesh to soul. Penelope wore a simple white dress she had found laid out for her upon arrival. The ceremony itself was brief but laden with strange words in a language she did not understand. When Lord Ravenscroft, Darius, as she must now call him, slid the ring onto her finger, a jolt of energy surged through her body, making her gasp. The binding is nearly complete, he murmured, his eyes glowing in the candlelight. What binding? She whispered. In time, wife. He raised her hand to his lips, pressing a cold kiss to her palm. You have saved your family. Now your life belongs to me. The first days as the mistress of Ravenscroft Manor passed in a blur of confusion and discovery. Darius was absent during daylight hours, though he never explained why. The manor staff, all ancient, all seemingly devoted to their master, treated Penelope with deference tinged with curiosity, as if she were a specimen under observation. On the third night, as she dined alone in the massive dining hall, Darius finally appeared, taking the seat opposite hers. You have questions, he stated. Penelope set down her fork. Many. Ask them, then. What are you? His lips curved in appreciation of her directness. I think you know. A vampire, she said, the word feeling absurd on her tongue despite her certainty of its truth. Yes. And what am I to you? A food source? A diversion? Darius leaned forward, his golden eyes intense. You are my wife, my companion, and potentially my eternal mate. Penelope felt her breath catch. I do not understand. There is a prophecy, Penelope. Among my kind, it is said that each ancient vampire has a soulmate, one mortal born in each generation who carries the essence that complements our own. Most never find theirs. I have searched for centuries. And you believe I am this soulmate? Disbelief colored her voice. I know it. His certainty was unnerving. Your blood calls to me like no other. The moment you entered my home, I felt the connection awakening. Penelope stood abruptly. This is madness. I agreed to marriage to save my farm, not to become part of some supernatural fairy tale. Yet here you are. Darius remained seated, watching her with those predatory eyes. You sensed something too, did you not? A pull, a recognition. She wanted to deny it, but the strange dreams she had experienced since their wedding night, visions of Darius through centuries, always searching, always alone, gave her pause. Even if what you say is true, she said carefully, I am human. You are not. There can be no future in that. There can be an eternity, he countered softly. But I will not force transformation upon you. The choice must be yours, freely made. And if I choose humanity? Something like pain flickered across his perfect features. Then I will honor your decision. I may be a monster, Penelope, but I am not without honor. In the days that followed, Darius showed Penelope his world, a world of shadow and power. He revealed the extent of his abilities: supernatural strength and speed, enhanced senses, the power to heal almost any wound. He showed her the library containing journals from his centuries of existence, the art he had collected, the knowledge he had accumulated. But it was the small moments that began to crack the wall around Penelope's heart. Finding fresh flowers in her room each evening, the way he listened intently when she spoke of her family, his patience in explaining the mysteries of his existence. Despite herself, she began to see beyond the monster to the man who had endured unimaginable solitude. One evening, as they walked the moonlit gardens, Penelope gathered her courage. "May I see them?" "See what?" Darius asked, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what she meant. "Your fangs, your true nature." He studied her face for a moment, then slowly allowed his features to transform. His eyes blazed golden, the pupils elongating like a cat's. His canines extended into lethal points, gleaming in the moonlight. Penelope raised a trembling hand to his face, tracing the sharp curve of one fang with her fingertip. "Does my true form not repulse you?" he asked, his voice rougher in this state. "It frightens me," she admitted. "But no more than the thought of growing old alone frightened me before." Darius caught her hand, pressing it against his cold cheek. "You need never be alone again." That night, Penelope allowed him into her bedchamber for the first time. His touch was gentle, almost reverent, as he explored her body with immortal patience. When his fangs grazed the sensitive skin of her neck, she tensed instinctively. "I will not take your blood without permission," he murmured against her throat. "Never that." "And if I gave permission?" The question surprised even herself. Darius raised his head, his eyes glowing with hunger that was not entirely bloodlust. "It would create a bond between us, temporary at first but profound. You would feel what I feel, know my thoughts as I would know yours." "Show me," she whispered, tilting her head to expose her neck. His bite was swift, almost painless, a sharp pinch followed by a rush of sensation that bordered on ecstasy. As he drank, Penelope felt herself falling into his mind, experiencing the weight of centuries, the crushing loneliness, and beneath it all, a desperate hope that had sustained him through dark ages. When he finally withdrew, licking the small wound closed with a tongue that healed as it touched, Penelope was weeping. "Now you understand," he said softly. "You have been so alone," she whispered. "Until now." Their physical relationship deepened over the following weeks, each encounter strengthening the blood bond between them. Through this connection, Penelope experienced fragments of Darius's long past. His human life as a nobleman in Renaissance Italy, his transformation at the hands of an ancient vampire who had seen something special in him, the centuries of wandering in search of meaning and connection. Yet even as she grew closer to Darius, Penelope maintained her regular visits to her family's farm. Her father's health had improved dramatically thanks to specialists Darius had arranged, and her sister had begun attending the prestigious university she had always dreamed of. The farm itself flourished under new management Darius had hired. It was during one such visit, 6 months into their marriage, that Penelope encountered Lucas Harrison, a vampire hunter who had come to investigate the rumors of Ravenscroft Manor's master. "You're his wife," Lucas said bluntly, cornering her in the barn. "Do you know what he is? What he's done?" "I know exactly what my husband is," Penelope replied calmly. Lucas's expression hardened. "He's a monster who has fed on innocent blood for centuries, and you're either his willing accomplice or his deluded victim." "You know nothing about him," she said, turning to leave. Lucas grabbed her arm. "I know his kind. They cannot love, only possess. Whatever he's told you, whatever you believe you feel for him, it's an illusion, a trap." His words echoed her own initial fears, striking at vulnerabilities she thought she had overcome. "Let go of me. I can free you from him," Lucas insisted. Break the blood bond. Penelope wrenched her arm away. There is no freedom I desire from my husband. But Lucas's words festered in her mind as she returned to the manor. What if her feelings were merely the result of the blood bond? What if Darius had manipulated her from the beginning, using her family's desperation to ensnare her? Darius sensed her turmoil immediately. "You met the hunter," he said as she entered the library where he waited. "You knew he was there? You let me go alone. I knew you would encounter him eventually, better on your terms than his or mine." Darius set aside the ancient tome he had been reading. "Did he tell you I cannot truly love? That I am merely using you? Something like that?" Penelope paced the room restlessly. "How do I know that is not true? How can I trust what I feel when our blood is mingled? The blood bond cannot create love, Penelope. Can only reveal what already exists." He rose and approached her slowly. "If you doubt, there is a way to know for certain." "How?" "Madame Vorna can temporarily sever our bond. For 24 hours, you would be free of my influence, able to examine your true feelings without the connection between us. And you would allow this, knowing I might choose to leave." Pain etched itself across his features. "I have lived centuries believing monsters like me are unworthy of true love. If you prove that belief correct, I would rather know now than persist in false hope for eternity." The ritual took place at midnight in the manor's ancient cellar. Madame Vorna created a circle of arcane symbols around Penelope, burning herbs that filled the air with pungent smoke. "This will not be pleasant," the old woman warned. "The separation of blood-bonded souls never is." Darius stood outside the circle, his face a mask of control. "Remember your promise," he said to Penelope. 24 hours. Then return to me with your decision, whatever it may be." "I promise," she whispered as Madame Vorna began her incantation. The severing felt like being torn in half. Penelope screamed as invisible connections between her and Darius were ripped away, leaving raw, bleeding wounds in her psyche. When it was done, she lay gasping on the cold stone floor, feeling hollowed out and terrifyingly alone. "It is complete," Madame Vorna announced. "Until tomorrow night, your mind and heart are entirely your own." Darius helped Penelope to her feet, careful not to touch her skin directly. "Rest now. Tomorrow, when you are stronger, you will know what you truly want." Penelope spent the day in solitude, walking the grounds, examining her feelings without the blood bond's influence. The absence of Darius in her mind was like a physical ache, but beneath that pain, she found not freedom but a deeper longing. Without the bond, she could still recall every moment they had shared, every confidence exchanged, every tender touch. As twilight approached, she made her way to the village church, seeking neutral ground for contemplation. She knelt in a pew, watching the last rays of sunlight filter through stained glass, painting the stone floor in jeweled colors. "I thought I might find you here," came Lucas's voice from behind her. Penelope turned to see the hunter approaching, a wooden stake visible in his belt. "What do you want?" "To make sure you're safe. I sensed the ritual last night. You broke his hold on you." Lucas sat beside her. "Now you can see clearly what he truly is." "I see more clearly than ever," she agreed, rising from the pew. "I see that Darius has shown me more honesty, more respect, and more love than any human man ever has. He gave me the freedom to choose, knowing I might reject him." Lucas's expression hardened. "It's another manipulation. He's had centuries to perfect his deceptions." "No," Penelope said with sudden certainty. "The deception was believing that humanity determines the capacity to love. Darius may be immortal, but his soul is no less real than mine. You're going back to him. It wasn't a question." "I am returning to my husband," she confirmed. Lucas stood abruptly. "Then you're already lost. When he turns you into a monster like himself, remember there was a chance to escape." "Not escaping," Penelope corrected him. "Choosing." She left the church as darkness fell, her steps quickening as she approached the manor. Darius waited for her in the entrance hall, his posture rigid with tension. You came back, he said, his voice rough with emotion he no longer tried to hide. I promised I would. And your decision? Penelope closed the distance between them, taking his cold hands in her warm ones. My decision is that you were wrong. Pain flickered across his face. Wrong. Monsters cannot love. That is what you believed for centuries. But you do love me, Darius. Not because of prophecy or blood bonds, but because your soul recognizes mine, as mine recognizes yours. His golden eyes widened. Then you choose. I choose you. I choose eternity. I choose to be your true mate in every way. The transformation ritual required 3 nights of preparation. On the first night, Madame Vorna drew Penelope's blood into a chalice mixed with rare herbs and ancient vampire blood. Not Darius's, for his would be the final catalyst. The old blood will prepare your body, the old woman explained. Without it, the transition could destroy your mind. Penelope drank the bitter mixture, shuddering as it burned through her veins like liquid fire. That night she dreamed of all who had come before her. Mortals who had loved vampires throughout history, some transformed successfully, others lost to madness or death. On the second night, she was bathed in water infused with night-blooming flowers, their petals floating on the surface like stars. Darius explained that this would purify her essence, making her spirit receptive to immortality's touch. Are you certain? He asked as he helped her from the bath, his eyes fixed on the droplets sliding down her skin. There is no returning from this path. I have never been more certain of anything, she assured him. The final night arrived, a night of blood moon, when the barrier between mortal and immortal realms grew thin. In the ritual chamber deep beneath the manor, Darius waited for her, dressed in ceremonial robes of black velvet embroidered with silver symbols. Penelope wore white, her dark hair flowing loose around her shoulders. A circle of 13 black candles surrounded an ancient stone altar. Upon it rested a silver dagger and a goblet of pure crystal. Tonight you will die as a mortal and be reborn as my eternal mate, Darius said formally. Once begun, the ritual cannot be halted. The pain will be beyond imagining, but I will be with you through every moment. Penelope nodded, her heart racing with fear and anticipation. Lie down, he instructed. She positioned herself on the altar, the cold stone pressing against her back. Darius stood over her, his golden eyes glowing with inhuman light. With this blade, I release your mortal essence, he intoned, taking up the dagger. He made a swift, shallow cut across her palm, allowing her blood to flow into the crystal goblet. Then he sliced his own wrist, his dark blood mingling with hers. With our blood united, I call to your soul across the veil of death, he continued. Bound together in life, bound together in darkness, bound together for eternity. He raised the goblet to her lips. Drink, my love. Penelope drank deeply, the coppery sweetness of their combined blood sliding down her throat. Almost immediately, a violent tremor racked her body. She cried out as liquid fire seemed to replace her blood, burning through every vessel, every nerve. Hold on to me, Darius commanded, gathering her convulsing form into his arms. Focus on my voice. The pain intensified until Penelope could no longer distinguish between her body and the agony itself. She felt her heart racing, struggling, then faltering in erratic beats. Your mortal heart is dying, Darius whispered against her ear. Let it go. Trust me and let go. With a final, wrenching effort, Penelope surrendered to death. Her heart stuttered once, twice, then ceased its rhythm completely. In that moment of perfect stillness, she felt herself floating above her body, tethered only by the silver thread of Darius's will. Come back to me, he commanded, his voice echoing through dimensions. Not as you were, but as you are meant to be. He bit into his wrist again, deeper this time, and pressed the wound to her lifeless lips. Drink and return. Instinct overrode death. Penelope's mouth latched onto his wrist, drawing deep pulls of his ancient blood into her empty veins. With each swallow, awareness returned, sharper, clearer, more vibrant than human perception could comprehend. Her eyes flew open, new vision revealing colors beyond the mortal spectrum. She could see the aura surrounding Darius, pulsing with power and emotion. She could hear the minute movements of dust motes in the air, smell the centuries of history embedded in the stone walls. And she could feel him, not just through the blood bond they had shared before, but through the eternal connection of soulmates united in immortality. His thoughts flowed through her mind as naturally as her own. His emotions became part of her consciousness. "Darius," she gasped, her voice strange to her new ears. "My eternal love," he responded, helping her to sit. "How do you feel?" Penelope took stock of her transformed body. The hunger was there, a powerful craving for blood that throbbed in her newly sharpened canines. But it was manageable, tempered by the ancient blood flowing through her. "Complete," she answered truthfully, "as if I have found a piece of myself I never knew was missing." Darius helped her from the altar, supporting her as she learned to balance with her enhanced reflexes and strength. "The hunger will be strongest in these first days. I will help you learn control." "Will I be like you? Able to walk in daylight eventually?" "In time, yes. My age and power will accelerate your development." He stroked her hair, now glossier and more vibrant in death than it had been in life. "There is so much to show you, so many wonders across centuries and continents." "We have eternity," she reminded him, marveling at how natural those words now felt. As dawn approached, Darius led her to their shared chamber, now modified to block all sunlight. They lay together on the massive bed, exploring her transformed body with immortal patience. "I still cannot quite believe you chose this," Darius admitted as they rested in each other's arms. "For centuries I believed monsters could not be loved, that I was destined for eternal solitude. Perhaps that is why we found each other," Penelope suggested, tracing the contours of his face with newly sensitive fingertips. "I needed to save my family's legacy, but you needed to save your faith in love itself." "The prophecy spoke of balance restored," he mused. "I always thought it meant cosmic balance, but perhaps it meant the balance within my own soul." Penelope smiled, revealing the delicate points of her new fangs. "Either way, I am glad I married a centuries-old vampire to save my family's farm. And I am glad my eternal soulmate was brave enough to offer herself to a monster," Darius replied, gathering her closer. "Sleep now, my love. When you wake, your new life begins." As Penelope drifted into vampire slumber for the first time, she felt the weight of mortality lift from her soul. What had begun as sacrifice had transformed into salvation, not just for her family, but for two souls who had finally found their eternal home in each other. In the quiet darkness of Ravenscroft Manor, vampire and newly turned mate rested in perfect harmony, their shared blood pulsing with the promise of endless nights and boundless love. The prophecy was fulfilled, the ancient loneliness vanquished, and the truth finally embraced, that even monsters could find redemption in love's immortal embrace.